You're listening to Soundside. I'm Gabriel Spitzer, and today for Libby Denkman. Gamers rejoice. The day that Mario, Pokémon, and Zelda fans have been looking forward to is right around the corner. The Switch 2 from Nintendo is out on Thursday. This second generation of Nintendo's flagship console has been highly anticipated for years, but the launch announcement was not without controversy. Nintendo announced the new console back in January, but it wasn't until last month that details came out about games and pricing, as well as licensing. It was revealed that instead of buying the games themselves at your friendly local game store, the cartridge you buy is merely a key to download the game from Nintendo's digital storefront, and that caused quite a stir among Nintendo faithful. Well, here now to talk to us about this shift away from buying physical copies of games is Ryan DiVittorio. He writes about video games for CBR.com, and he's been following this story. Ryan, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad to be here.
So Nintendo seems like one of the last big platforms outside of Xbox and PlayStation to fully embrace the digital marketplace, where these cartridges don't actually contain the game, they just have the key to unlock it. So when did this trend really start?
So it's really coming to light now that they're shifting towards the Nintendo Switch 2. There have been a couple cases in the past where some Switch games either will need a download to be able to run or just won't have a copy of the game inside the case at all. LA Noire needed a 14 gigabyte download, and the Overwatch Legendary Edition didn't have a game inside, just a code to download. So it's been going on for a little while now, but now they're really starting to get into the swing of things.
What's behind it? What's in it for the companies to move away from physical media?
Well, I think with Nintendo specifically, it's about controlling it. They've been very particular on who can use their content and how they can use it. So in my opinion, it's just about them being able to shape the narrative around what they've built and how they want to portray themselves.
Say a little more, like what's a use that they would object to?
So a lot of things I've seen is Nintendo will go after certain streamers or certain content creators that they're not exactly aligned with on certain views, and they will copyright them on YouTube. I've heard of cases where frivolous lawsuits are just thrown around like, while this one may not be frivolous, the Pal World lawsuit is a huge controversy amongst Nintendo and Pokemon fans, because a lot of them were so happy with Pal World coming in and making these big changes that they've wanted to see in the Pokemon franchise for a long time. And the moment Nintendo saw any inkling of competition, they decided to step in.
That's interesting. So they could go, and if they don't like some streamers, the way that they even talk about the game or something like that, they could then go in and disable their access to the game?
Yes, or they can just go in onto like YouTube and just give them a copyright strike and file for the videos to be taken down, or whatever is honestly in their best interest. They're going to do it.
It seems like one advantage of accessing the games from this digital storefront is that it kind of eases updates and patches and that kind of stuff. And what's called the day one patch has been a thing in the games industry for a long time, where gamers often need to download an update before they can actually even play the thing. Does this move away from the physical media help kind of solve that problem?
I would say no. Games are always going to have issues when they're first released. The developers need some kind of time with that influx of players to weed out some of the issues that may or may not have been known about and resolved. If you look at some of the more recent titles, like Doom: The Dark Ages just released, and there were some massive problems with that despite having a day one patch. Dragon's Dogma had the same. There was many issues. People were having trouble running it on PC. If you want to look back even further, Jedi Survivor, Arkham Knight, all of these games have issues despite having a day one patch. So regardless of if the game is released midnight on launch day and players can download it instantly, there are still going to be problems that are found that need to be resolved within the first couple of days of release.
Well, speaking of those midnight launches, it used to be that people would go wait in line and have a release party or whatever at midnight at GameStop or Best Buy or something like that. This seems like it's the end of that kind of stuff, right?
I mean, I hope not. I hope they can figure something out. I remember going to the Black Ops 2 release at my local GameStop and having, an amazing time. And there's not a lot of that nowadays. Even before the real switch to digital, they just aren't doing a whole lot of events now, and that's a piece of gaming that just kind of fell to the wayside. And it's
Yeah, it's a piece of the culture. Yeah, that's
yeah,
tied to
exactly.
these physical locations and physical media.
Yeah, it's about a community, and you just can't get that if you're all behind a screen.
Uh, and incidentally, for those retailers like GameStop or Best Buy, how much of a moneymaker has the cartridges traditionally been, and does this hurt them then?
I would say they definitely get the majority of their revenue through physical, but if you're ever shopping around in like Walmart or Target in the game section, you'll see that there are a lot of those like gift cards that have like digital codes for certain games or certain digital currency for like Fortnite and stuff like that. So they are selling digital versions of these games, but definitely not as much as the physical. Kids don't go in and see a gift card and say, "Mommy, I want that." They see the game case, they see the artwork, they know what they're doing with that. And
Well, despite the lack of a physical artifact that you're buying in a lot of those cases, the prices have been going up. I mean, really going up. Nintendo set the price for the new Mario Kart game at $80,
Mhm.
and the new Grand Theft Auto 6 is expected to be around 90. What do you like? What are the economics of these price increases? Is this just a matter of supply and demand?
I would like to think so. I would like to think it's just, the state of the world and the state of everything going on right now has a big effect on the prices, but then I kind of look at Nintendo and you know, they've really upped the price on the Switch too when it doesn't necessarily need to be that much for them to still make a profit on it. It really just seems like they are in it to make the most money they can out of this sort of thing, and not really care who they step on along the way, which isn't great for the consumer, the average gamer. They don't want to spend 80, $90 on these games, but they also don't want to miss out on the newest releases like GTA 6. Nobody doesn't want to play GTA 6, but a lot of people can't or don't want to spend $90 on a game.
Well, speaking of those consumers and their point of view, I mean, there seems like there are some benefits from going full digital, like you can't break your cartridge or drop it in the toilet or something like that. Or if you do, it's not the end of the world. But it seems like there's a lot of downsides as well, including the fact that you don't have the option to resell your games and make some of your money back. What are some of the knock on effects for gamers and the gamer experience?
I think some like good effects are, the clutter. Like everyone's got their stack of games that they have on their shelves that just take up a lot of space, and the accessibility. Everyone can just go and click on a button and have the game they want, at an instant. It kind of starts to pave the way towards an all if we start going that all digital route, we're going to go the same way that like television and movies are have kind of gone with like streaming, and like Xbox Game Pass has started to take over the past couple of years, and players are finding the value in that. They want to kind of just have the games that they want to play at their disposal. They don't want to have to go to the store and buy the game. So it makes it a lot easier for them in some cases.
Can they be assured that they will have the game at their disposal once they pay for it? I mean, couldn't the company theoretically pull it?
Oh, they can. There have been definitely cases where the developers or the publishers have come in and like just taken away rights to the game. Ubisoft pulled the crew from digital libraries, I believe, last year in 2024. And there's an ongoing lawsuit about that because players paid for that game. And now that it's just being removed from their libraries, they feel sort of kicked aside, like the money they spent didn't matter.
Well, that really kind of gets to the heart of this thing where, I mean, we have this assumption as consumers that when we buy something, we own it and we can do what we want with it. And then you have these companies that are trying to shift that paradigm to no, no, you don't own the thing. You own a right to use our thing until we decide, to revoke it or change the terms or whatever. And that is the sort of dynamic that's being targeted by laws like Washington's new right to repair law, which give you the right to sort of do what you want with devices that you have bought. I wonder if you think that's going to have much of an effect on this model, and whether you think the companies like Nintendo are going to challenge it.
I do think it'll have an effect on the model going forward. Nintendo specifically is definitely going to challenge this. They want their control, like I said. They want to be able to brick a console if somebody breaks their terms of service and gets it repaired on their own. But at the end of the day, they will be subject to the laws,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how hard they fight them or not. They are going to fight tooth and nail to be able to keep their control, but at the end of the day, they have to follow the rules like everybody else.
Ryan, what do you think we lose, if anything, with the death of physical media?
I think we lose a lot of our rights as a consumer. I think the right to own your media is completely just taken away, and even if it's not, it can be. Nobody ever reads a lot of the terms of service and agreements that you sign when you make these downloads and sign up for these accounts. But a lot of those agreements have clauses in it where you don't really own the thing. And that can be hard for a lot of people. Everybody wants to own the thing that's in their hand that they paid money for.
Yeah, I mean, so I have a couple of teenagers, and they have begun collecting vinyl and CDs. I even had to go out and buy a new cassette player at one point.
Oh,
So,
cool.
what do you think that allure is? That lasting appeal of media that you can hold in your hand?
So you can call it hoarding, but I like to call it collecting. I have got so many movies, games. I still have a case of CDs from when I was a teenager somewhere. It's it's weird because as a collector, you like to just you just like to appreciate your collection, right? There's that uniqueness in being able to look at what you've accumulated over the years and look back at some of your favorite titles, or some of the stuff you have the most fond memories with.
Just kind of look at it and feel wealthy.
Right.
I think that's why I haven't sold so many of my paper books.
Oh, I'm the same way as far as books.
So, last question, I think. These cartridges that don't actually have the game on them, if you blow real hard on them, like with the old NES cartridges, do they work better?
I think they might. I'm not sure, but I think they might.
Try it out and let us know, folks. Well, Ryan DiVittorio writes about video games for CBR.com. He's been following this story. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Now, thank you for having me.
And we reached out to Nintendo of America last week to get their response to the question about right to repair in Washington state. We'll update this story as soon as they respond.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. And hey, this show is only possible because listeners support us. If you are able to give right now, check out the show notes for a link to donate. And don't forget, you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m., Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org.